into the holidays and you're going to spend time with relatives that you don't agree with. That's a given. I want to specifically talk about spending holiday time with in-laws, aunts, uncles that might decide disciplining your child is okay. Um, I know we have this adage out there, it takes a village to raise a child. Really not so much. It takes a village to maybe keep safety in the village. It takes a village to watch out for each other. It takes a village to create a community and a set of unity and kind of excite the senses of when there's a carnival in town, the community all comes together. There's a lot of reasons we have a village, but to raise a child, it takes a couple of parents and some cooperation. And so we want to understand what our rules are as a family when we come into family situations, family gatherings, even sometimes community gatherings. What is the boundaries that we have? There's all types of potential interference or need to referee when we're going to family members' house, especially if we're going to a cranky in-laws house or we have that one aunt or uncle that seems to think they know how to raise everyone's kids. Um, Maybe at times I'm that uncle that does things incorrectly, and I've got a relative or a brother or a sister that doesn't appreciate how I talk to their kids. And so there's this notion that um, we need to stay quiet and maybe even teach our kids to respect their elders. And I do agree with respecting your elders. I agree with not having our kids be the rude ones or the ones that act out. However, I think it's important, especially uh, these days, to teach our kids that not every person out there has their best interest in mind. And so, again, going to family, we hope that everyone has everyone else's back. We hope that everyone is able to, see a loving approach and to see our family through loving eyes. But there's also this truth that we're going to be in a confined space together. Generally, people are sleeping in unfamiliar rooms. Our kids are going to be around members of the family that they only see on holidays. Um, there's other families that get together quite a bit, and so they're more and more used to it. But it's a mixed bag of confinement, a lot going on, and a different setting, a different set of guidelines for dinner time, bedtime. And so, really, it's difficult for kids to navigate that if they don't have a heads up. So, we're going to talk about some ways to give them that heads up as well as for you and your spouse to manage it as well as you can. Now, remember, when someone else disciplines your child, there's a lot of times we get this feeling of they don't think we're good enough or they don't think we parent well enough. Most often, when someone else disciplines your child, it comes from their insecurity, from their discomfort. It's really they're not thinking you don't know how to handle it, though they might project that on you. They might think you're not knowing what you're doing, so they jump in. But you don't have to own that. You don't have to own that you're not doing a good enough job, that you're not disciplining your child harsh enough or well enough. How you can look at it is it's like their own stuff. They're handling their own stuff. And then you need to decide what's okay and what's not okay. Okay? So if you haven't done this already, as a couple, prior to heading into a holiday party or a holiday overnighter with family, or even a long weekend with family members, um, you and your spouse sit down together and decide what type of discipline is okay and what's not okay with the people you're going to go visit. You may not know how they discipline the folks that you're going to go stay with, or the in laws, or the parents, or the aunts or uncles. So you can decide what's acceptable and what's not acceptable together before you head out and even head down the road. If you do that, you and your spouse will be at least on the same page when you get there. If you're going to see her family or your family, depending on which family member, lean to their understanding, lean to your spouse's understanding of their family of origin. Ask them if there's anything that you need to prepare for. Now, some of you have been doing this for years, I get it, but maybe you've never had this talk with your spouse of like, how does your family discipline? How do they see kids? Like, do they see kids as equals or not equals in that they have the same privileges, but do they talk down to kids and talk up to adults? Do they subtly put kids in this different category of nuisances? Or do they treat kids respectfully and are they good to kids? Do they help kids grow and build good solid character? What kind of persons are we going to be visiting? So together make some decisions on what's comfortable and what's not comfortable. Okay, so you and your spouse go unified to this family gathering. So if something goes wrong, you know your spouse will have your back because that's oftentimes all it takes for you to be confident in going into situations with family members. Um, Decide one of two trajectories. Okay, really just one of two. One trajectory is you are okay with that parent, you're okay with that uncle, and what they're doing is helping you with your child, and they're just helping your child learn and grow. The other one, the other trajectory is if the two of you have decided that there's certain things that are not allowed, it's perfectly okay to say in private, I would prefer you to not um, discipline my child. Come to me and let me handle it. That's okay to say to a family member, okay? Really understand it is okay to tell a family member that you would like to discipline your own child. Okay. Now, again, there's generally two pathways to go on. One is just accept it, and one is to say no more. And the main thing for it to work is for you and your spouse going into the situation to be on the same page with what you're going to do in those circumstances. Okay. So, in many cases, the things that we're talking about here is setting boundaries with relatives. One other thing you can do is prepare your children ahead of time. Before going to auntie and uncle's house, before going to grandparents on dad's side or mom's side's house, anticipate some of the things that you know are going to happen. Many of you already know stuff. You already know which grandmother's finicky and which one just lets you run ragged all over the whole house, all right? So prepare your kid ahead of time. Say, look, I know grandma says it's okay to eat all the candy you want, but we take a little bit of self control in our family and we'd prefer you. And to really set the tone for your kid to know what to expect. Try to anticipate your kid's needs. Understand in a big family gathering with lots of people, sometimes you know your own kid. You know if your kid needs a nap or doesn't really need a nap. For some of us parents, nap time is for us more than the kid. And sometimes our kid gets really cranky if they don't get a nap. And so if your kid needs a nap, find a quiet place, tell everybody that corner of the house, or maybe go for a drive in your car, let them take a nap for an hour, whatever you need to do. Get your kid that nap if that is what it takes for your child to not get cranky. Watch your child's hunger level, tired, sleepy level, what kinds of things drive mood up versus down. And try to anticipate that so you can get ahead of it when you're with your relatives. It's also wise to let your child know a little bit about what's going to happen. Let your child know you have this aunt that loves to give hugs, or you have this grandpa that loves to do a little wrestle or what have you. Let your child know it's okay to have their own boundaries if they don't want to hug. Parents, don't make your kid hug a relative. Teach your kid how to get ahead of it with a little handshake or a high five, or how to like do a quick side hug and then move forward just like you do. And so there's things that you can do to prepare your child. Let your child know who's going to be there and what to expect. The more your child is prepared, the less shock your child will have with the family. Now, again, many of you have done this for years and your children are already used to all these people, but perhaps there's some nuances or some changes that have happened over the last little while that maybe you ought to give your kid a little bit of a warning about. Okay? So to boil all this down into something that maybe you can just hang on to, there's two things to remember. It is really good for your child to experience different types of parenting. They're going to have different professors, different school teachers, different people that are in charge of the workplace, managers, bosses. So they need to get used to a wide variety of styles and disciplines. However, they also need to know that in this world, someone has their back too. We also need them to understand that they get to have some boundaries too. So you and your spouse make a solid decision going into these circumstances. What's the line? What's the line? If a if a person crosses a certain line in discipline with your kids, step in, like we've said earlier, and explain to that adult that you'd rather them come to you, not your child. If they won't respect that, you'll have to take another step of some kind of sit down talk that's often uncomfortable, but to let them know that it's not going to be allowed or you won't be able to be involved with them. The other direction that you can go is talk to your child about different types of parenting, different types of managing. Explain to them that they'll have school teachers that are really difficult to deal with and some that are very easy to deal with, and teach them how to respect both styles with some kind of sense that in the background there is boundaries that they can set for themselves as well. Now, from really young children to teens, this will look really different. For really young children, you just teach them how to respect adults and then come and report to you if they have something that they don't understand or that they're feeling frustrated with. As they get to be teens and older children, you can start helping them learn how to respond well to certain types of things that are going on, and how not to respond, but to come and report to you so that you can go and handle it adult to adult.